I have a second channel, Cube Compium DDX. Hey everybody. In less than a week, or by the time you're watching this, it will be the 10-year anniversary of Cooking with Intel, the original Cooking with Intel that I uploaded back in September 2010 of frying bologna on a Celeron 1.8 GHz CPU. So today's Cooking with Intel is going to be episode 7. So in this video, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. So among all the mess on the table, you may notice a system on the table. Got a power supply, motherboard, some RAM, and a hard disk drive. And our victim today is a Intel Pentium D 820 CPU. These particular processors from Intel were better known for their ability to heat your room than for their mediocre performance. I mean, they were Intel's first dual-core offering to answer back to AMD for their Athlon 64X2 back in the day. But these things were essentially two Pentium 4s combined into one CPU. So we all know how hot the Pentium 4s run, at least the Prescott Pentium 4s. So just imagine putting two together into one chip. That's what you get with the Pentium D. So in previous Cooking with Intel episodes, I would just start up the system with no RAM on the board, not hooked up with the monitor or anything else. But today I've actually got RAM installed. I'm going to actually install Windows 10 on this thing while it's cooking me some ramen noodle soup. So right now I'm just getting over a cold and I could use some soup. So let's see if this Intel Pentium D 820 can heat up and cook some ramen noodle soup. So first I gotta go ahead and apply some thermal paste to the CPU. Apply this little piece of metal here to act as a riser, to which I'll be mounting a pot to. Okay everybody, so I now have the pot and the riser block installed on the CPU, and excuse me guys, I did a little observation, and I noticed the CPU is already running super hot, like 80 to 90 degrees Celsius sitting in the BIOS. I do have thermal paste on the CPU between the block and the CPU, as well as between the block and this pot. So there's definitely not good thermal transfer between one of the two. I want to say a lot of it's between the pot and the block, because I did measure a temperature of about 70 degrees Celsius with my infrared thermometer, just shooting in there to see what it would read. So this thing's definitely going to thermal throttle, but my idea is maybe the thermal throttling will buy us some time. Let this thing heat up. Matter of fact, the temperature of the pot is already at about 35 degrees Celsius. If I touch the pot is already warm. And this has only been for like a couple minutes. So what we're going to do is we'll take our Windows 10 USB stick and we're going to plug it in here and see if we can even install Windows 10 before this thing overheats. Because this thing, if it gets hot enough, it will shut off by itself. The CPU will also thermal throttle. My idea is we can get into Windows 10, see what this thing does, and if necessary, I can revert back to the old-fashioned method of doing things, which is to pull the RAM, jumper the power supply to stay on, and without the RAM, the CPU thermal throttling does not seem to work. So it'll just overheat to all get out. it'll just burn itself right up. So let's go and get started. And start it up. So as you may have probably already seen, I've got water in the pot. Show you how hot this thing's running already. These Pentium Ds they're definitely space heaters for sure. See, it's at 72 right now. See, the thing is, these Pentium Ds, it's not uncommon for them to sit about 60 to 65 degrees Celsius just with a heatsink fan sitting in the device. So you have to figure this little block, it's absorbing a lot of the heat, and it can't transfer as much of it. It can't transfer as quickly to the pot, so the CPU is going to get hot. Yeah, you can see it's climbing already. But let's just give it a try, see what it does. And if we can get into Windows 10, I may consider running Prime 95. But if it shuts off or throttles, I'll just resort back to the old-fashioned method of doing things. Let's see if it's going to boot off of my Windows 10 USB. Yep. Yeah, the only thing I hate is I can't get readings of the actual CPU temp sensor unless we're in Windows 10 or in the BIOS. So if this thing does get too hot, it will just shut off. Oh man. Look. Already getting readings of like 80 something degrees C. Oh, it's getting hot. No, without a doubt. I have to question if the motherboard's going to even make it through this. It's still loading. It hasn't locked up or shut off yet. The pot is starting to get warm. Let's see our pot temperature. We're getting, now I don't know how accurate this little thermometer is reading water temp, but it's saying 37 Celsius. The edge of the pot is about 50 degrees C at the bottom. No burning smells or anything of that nature. We're booting into Windows 10 setup. Guys, I imagine this thing has to be thermal throttling like crazy. So I guess the real question today is, can we run the computer and also cook on it at the same time? It's not seeing the mouse. Alright, just shut off. Crap. Oh, just reset. Okay, everybody, so apparently this board has an issue with one of its USB ports, or it could have been caused by, well, what we're doing with it right now. So what I ended up having to do was I actually hooked up a front panel USB header to give me some extra USB ports for the keyboard and mouse, and I got the Windows 10 USB stick back there. In the meantime, our pot of water is up to 40 degrees C now. And this thing is running as a match. But we're going to try this again. Let's see what happens. We're going to try to run Windows 10 on this thing. Try to install it anyway. It's probably thermal throttling like crazy right now, given the lag in the BIOS. But let's just see here. Like I say, there is what we could call the nuclear option. That would be to, well, let's see if it even sees my USB stick. So again, guys, the nuclear option, here it is, would be to just pull the RAM, jumper the power supply on, and just cook it that way. Nope. Just shut off. Well, guys, it just shut off. Okay, so I think we're going to resort back to the nuclear option, which will be to pull the RAM, jumper the power supply on, and let it rip. As I was poking around with this thing, I got a max reading of like 113 C. So yeah, it's hot. It's definitely hot. This pot of water is getting warm quick, like really quick, and I question if the motherboard's going to actually hold out long enough for this. Let me see if I can take these modules out. Okay, guys, I'm not sure how much later it is now. I didn't keep time on this one like I have done for a couple of my previous ones, but the pot of water is now, well, at least this thing is telling me it's 46 degrees C. The pot measures about 50 degrees C. And the water is nearly too hot to keep my fingers in it now. And you may be able to see all the bubbling that's starting to happen inside on the pot. So we're definitely starting to heat up. This is taking a little bit. But yeah, it's amazing the heat output of a Pentium D. This is what they can do. No burning smells. The other thing is, when things get this hot, you could start melting solder. So it's important that we don't move stuff around right now. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and drop in the block of noodles and see what happens. See what happens here. We aren't starting to steam just yet, but it does seem like we're still heating up. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to have to regularly cycle this thing because I'm not sure if I mentioned before in the video yet, but despite having the power supply jumpered on, what can happen is the motherboard can still technically shut off and actually interrupt power to the CPU VRM. So this is something we'll have to keep in mind. Okay, so I went ahead and removed the jumper for the power supply. That way I can tell when this thing shuts off. That way I can start right back up again. Let's see. The pot is getting noticeably warmer, according to the thermometer. So is the water. Now the water did cool off a bit because I'll put that block of noodles in there. So what to do is I have to keep an eye on the power supply fan, and every time the power supply shuts off, just press the power button and start it back up again. I realize I made a mistake by selecting this motherboard because it keeps shutting off due to overheat. You can see the noodles are starting to get soft. So this may not be like what you would expect on a stove, but look, the noodles are softening up and we've got steam. We are actually cooking these things. Not sure if y'all can see the steam or not. Trying to be careful not to get water on the motherboard. Looks like it's staying on longer now. I think what it was, I had to sort of reposition the pot and the block on the on top of the CPU. We are cooking ramen noodles on this thing. Okay, everybody, so I think we've hit max this thing can do because this motherboard keeps shutting off this CPU. So that's going to lead us to wonder, will the processor work after this? I mean, the motherboard is, in fact, shutting it off. So that'd be something to try out later on, either in this video or in a follow-up video. I might do it in a follow-up video. And if it works, I'm going to probably put this CPU on a different motherboard, a different old motherboard I have, and just see if I can finish it off that way. Because I thought I had a different socket 775 board around here that I used for previous Cooking with Intel videos, but I can't seem to locate it, which is unfortunate, as it did not shut off. It just burned out the CPU. So the ramen, as you can see, it's I'd say it's fully cooked. So I'm going to grab a bowl. Well, first, before I move it to a bowl, I'm going to go ahead and add the seasoning packet. So it's shut off, but I can't believe this, guys. Then again, I can. It is a Pentium D of all CPUs. Yeah. Ramen noodle soup cooked on a Pentium D processor. So as I mentioned, I'm getting over a cold, or it could possibly be COVID. I don't know. It is 2020, and we are in the middle of a pandemic. So, I could definitely use some soup. One thing I can notice right away is this. Is the noodles have soaked up a good bit of water. They tend to do that when you cook them slower. Shoot. We just spilled on the motherboard. Who cares? We just... crud, Nick. No. Well, guys, the experiment went well, but as soon as I went to take the pot off the CPU, the little block came off with it. I didn't realize, and I set it on my table. And dang it, the pot didn't spill off into the floor. I didn't lose all of them, but I lost about half of them. This is what's left. But there you have it, guys. Ramen noodle soup on a Pentium D 820 CPU. So if we look at the motherboard, we can definitely tell we've had some damage. Look at all this coloration over here. It's bad. I'm just glad when it spilled it didn't actually go near the power supply, but this motherboard's probably toast by now. Because it did spill a little bit onto the this section over here. But I'll just let it sit and dry. And I might try it again, see if the CPU still works. That'd be interesting to see. So if it works, I'll have to do a follow-up video. Yeah, guys. Just like I did in the old Cooking with Intel episode 10 years ago. It's actually really good. The noodles are, sorry guys. Yeah, the noodles, they are a little soft. They are a little softer. I mean, when you cook them slower, they tend to absorb more of the water, and they get bigger. Yeah, guys. So I got a little bit of mess to clean up in the floor over here, but I'll deal with it. But yeah. There you have it, guys. Cooking with Intel Episode 7. Cooking ramen noodles on a Pentium D 820 CPU. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Well, everybody, that's it for this video. But don't forget, there's a lot more interesting stuff on the channel to check out. Also, if this is your first time visiting this channel, feel free to subscribe to keep your channel. And also, don't forget to tick the bell so that way you'll get notified of new video posts. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. But if you really didn't like it, there is the alternative option available as well. Also, feel free to check out my second channel, Comp MTDX. There you'll find videos about bicycling, weather, elevator tours, and all sorts of other neat, interesting stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to come back, and thank you for your support.